For some reason, and I'm sure some of you all will agree with me, I just feel like January is the longest month of the year. We start off the new year with such a drag. Specifically, this January, I felt like we were given bad news after bad news after bad news, and a lot of the things that are happening in this world, I don't agree with. And I just feel defeated, and I just feel like I'm in this slump. Doesn't matter how many books I read, doesn't matter what books I read, I just feel crappy. I just want to read a good book. I want to read a book to escape. I want to read a book to get out of this world, get out of my mind, just feel something different and experience something different. But right now, with the political climate and everything that's going on in this world, I wanted to read a fantasy where I can escape, but also a fantasy that has depth with it and also brings back topics that we're dealing with in today's society. And I think that Blood Over Bright Haven is going to do just that. I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you're reading along if you are in my book club with me. Enjoy watching. I've been meaning to pick up the camera. It's been 2 days, and I don't know why, but I just haven't been feeling inclined to. However, I do want to talk about this book because I'm almost halfway done, and I haven't even given you my thoughts, a reading update, how I'm feeling. So we're going to do that right now. A little delayed. I made it to chapter 9, which is page 158, and this book is good. I'm not gonna lie, when I first heard about the story and heard that people in my book club were starting to read this, they were saying that it was a little bit confusing, a little slow to start. So I already had that in the back of my mind as I was getting ready to pick this book up. And chapter 1 starts off with such an aggressive tone. It also wasn't intimidating to me at all. I've been breezing by with this story, and it's really good. There's themes of misogyny and racism within different groups. It's feeling very real. Let's talk about what this book is even about. I'm gonna set it down though because it's heavy and hardcovers are pretty heavy. Right? So this is a story about our main character. Her name is Siona. Siona has been studying for the past 20 years so that she can be the first female to attend this high magistry university for magicians. And the thing about this is that no female, like I mentioned, has ever been a part of the high magistry before. All high mages have ever been males. So this is her first and final and only shot to really shine, and she wants to do the undoable. Siona has grown up in the city of Tehran, which is where this story takes place, and it is this city where everything is guided by religion. Everything that people do and the inhabitants, the citizens, they always have religion in their forefront. And also, in this city, it is a man's world. Women are not supposed to take these high-level positions and occupations. They're supposed to stay at home. They're supposed to be housemaids. They're supposed to bear children. They're not supposed to be high mages. And if a woman does go into schooling to be some sort of mage of some sort and learn magic, they're supposed to teach and be teachers. They're not supposed to do what Siona is trying to accomplish in life. So Siona really wants to change the narrative of her life, and she wants to give women in the future an opportunity to be what they want to be. Tehran is where the story takes place, and it's a metropolis that is run by religion and magic, as I mentioned. Around Tehran, we have this giant dome, which is magical, and it protects outsiders from coming in. It protects the inhabitants of Tehran from the blight. The blight is this white magic, and that's how I'm picturing it. Magic that can kill and destroy all. So that's why Tehran needs to be protected with this magical barrier so that the blight does not corrupt Tehran and destroy Tehran. So essentially we have this magical, beautiful city that's run on magic and religion and also gender inequality. It's great. It's so good. I love it there because that's basically how our lives are right now, minus the magic. The first chapter in the story opens up in such a dark and aggressive way. And now when I'm looking back on it, it really sets this tone for the rest of the story. We follow one main character. His name is Tomil, and he is a part of this tribe that lives on the outskirts of Tehran. He is a hunter. Him and his family, they live in the wilderness. Tomil and his family are on a death mission trying to run from the blight, leave their home, and find a safe place in Tehran because the blight is destroying everything around them and their home. So they're all fighting for their lives, try to find somewhere safe to be. That chapter just kind of ends, and then we don't hear from Tomil until later on in the story. Back to Siona, and when I was mentioning how women are basically not allowed to do anything, every 10 years they are allowed. They're given the opportunity, of course, to take the test to become a high mage. And they only do this. By they, I mean the government, I mean like the head honchos, who are all men, by the way. They only do this to prove that women are not capable of being anything other than mothers and teachers. They're only capable of keeping their low-level positions in life. So this is Siona's one shot and one shot only to prove to everyone that she can do the impossible. Guess what? She takes the test and she passes. She's now a high mage. I'm very happy for her. And I like that there were a few chapters before she takes her test, so we can kind of get to know the type of person she is. I love that she's really stubborn. I love that she wants to stand up for herself, and she doesn't necessarily take no for an answer. And we really need that strong of a character in a society like this, where women are always pushed down and women are told that they can't do certain things in life. I love that Siona is just a strong-willed character, and she just wants to prove everyone wrong. So I was so happy for her when she passed, and she even herself has been growing up where she's been teased her whole life. People have been telling her that she can't be a high mage. She's not going to be able to do it. People have always just brought her down. And now that she has this opportunity to be with like-minded individuals, now that she is admitted into this higher up education society, she thinks that now, since she has people surrounding her who are just as intelligent as she is, her being a woman shouldn't matter anymore. But when she gets there on her first day, her colleagues are just shitting on her and tearing her down. And it breaks my heart because she's just trying to be brave. They're just bringing her morale down, which in turn was bringing my morale down. But we know that Siona is just a strong-willed character, so she brushed it off. She is not going to let anyone stand in her way because she made it this far. Siona is High Mage Freeman. She is the first woman of the High Magistry. Nothing and no one can bring her down. Every High Mage gets an assistant when they start. Of course, her colleagues are awful people, and they basically tell her, oh, we don't have an assistant for you. Here's this janitor. This janitor, he's gonna be your assistant. His name is Tommy. Have fun, enjoy. And at first, she is struggling to accept that. But she decides, you know what? I'm not going to let them bring me down. Boys will always be boys. It's a boys' world. I am going to be above the boys. I'm going to take Tommy, and he's going to be the best assistant ever. That's how our main character from the very first chapter gets introduced back into the story, because Tommy is actually Tomil, and that is how Tomil and Siona meet. I would like to say that's a happy ending, but no, it's not. This is just the beginning. First impressions, other than that, I'm really enjoying it. Like I mentioned, I don't want to put it down. It's a standalone story, and there's 400 pages. And I'm almost halfway done, and I'm like, I need more than 400 pages. How? Safe to say, I'm really enjoying this story. We're finally starting to learn more about the magic system, and I do want to talk about it, but I want to wrap my head around the magic system and give my cohesive thoughts, because if I talked about it right now, I don't think I would make sense, because I don't even understand what's happening. One more thing, going back to how religion is so important in this story and it's tied in with magic. After each chapter ends and before a new chapter starts, we get a little tidbit of like the Book of Tehran, which is the main Bible of theirs. That's how I would like to think of it as their Bible. And it's so interesting because the more I read and learn about what's happening with Siona, and the more I learn about how the city works, and then we're reading from the book, these excerpts, I'm like, something is not right. This book is not right. By the book, I mean the Bible. I mean the Book of Tehran, their Bible. Things are not adding up, and it seems like there's secrets that we're starting to unveil, and it's really interesting, and it's getting my gears turning. I don't necessarily trust these high mages. I don't trust the government, because they're hiding a lot of things that Siona is slowly starting to find out herself. Tomil, our janitor, who is now Siona's assistant, is a lot smarter than we all think. And Siona is learning a little bit about his history and how magic was formed in his eyes and who he believes in, because his religion is not Siona's religion, because they're both from different parts of the world. Tomin is technically a Quen. Quens are inhabitants of the city who were not born in Tehran. Siona was born in Tehran, so she is a Tehranese? I don't know what they call themselves. But those who find refuge in Tehran are called the Quen, and they're seen as like the lower end of the socioeconomic status. The totem pole, they're seen on the lower end. And then above them are people like Siona. And then above Siona are the rich, the wealthy, the upper mages of some sorts, people in the government. None of this is truly said, but this is just what I'm getting at. This is how I'm envisioning. All in all, what I'm trying to say is that we're learning bits and pieces about history and how that connects to present time. And I think that there's just a lot of lies and things that Siona has been missing that she's starting to learn and I'm starting to catch up on. First, reading update. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. I'm going to finish up work and then I'm going to keep reading. Hopefully by the next time I talk to you, I'll be able to gather my thoughts a little bit better on the magic system because it's very fascinating and unique and different from any other magic system that I've read before. I really like it, but I need to think on it. Okay, that's all. It is the next day. I am on chapter 16, page 265 of the book, and I'm ready to tell you about the magic system. I had to sit on it for a little bit because it's quite complicated, but in the best way, it's so unique. So this right here is the spellograph. I'll do you one better. This right here is the spellograph. The spellograph is what high mages use to cast spells. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, let's backtrack a little bit. Within Tehran, we have the magic system, and magic is tied with religion. And magic is used for every tiny little thing within the city. Magic is used to help create buildings. Magic is used to perform different tasks. Magic is used to keep that barrier around the city as a protection. Magic is used for every small and big thing to keep the city sustaining. A spellograph is what is used to perform some magical spells. And to perform a spell, you have 2 sub-spells. Let's talk about each thing. So we have the sourcing spell, which I said is where you map. When you think about mapping, you use this spellograph and you type in different mathematical numbers, and it's kind of like a grid, and you can pinpoint within the other realm, which is like this other realm, and we don't know anything about it other than the fact that it's outside of this world, and it's where we can pull and siphon magic from so we can use our action spell. I want to talk a little bit about our main character, Siona. At first, I had mentioned that she's a really strong female individual. She's really stubborn because she has to be. She's brilliant. She won't take no for an answer. And I love all of these qualities about her. And I'm trying to empathize with her upbringing. She grew up in the city, so she knows nothing about how the Quen are treated. She knows nothing about what's outside of her bubble. She has this opportunity to get to know Tomel and get to learn more about his upbringing. And this also comes with religious beliefs and how the Quen are treated, how Tomel has been treated. It just makes me want to grab Siona by the shoulders and shake her because she's so naive and she's kind of selfish is what I'm starting to realize. And that's one quality that I don't like about her. It's interesting because her whole life, men have been putting her down constantly, and we're reading from her perspective in this story. And while she's working with Tomel, in her mind, she kind of thinks that he is below her. And it's really ironic and it's really shitty. So there's little things like that where I'm like, open your eyes, Siona. Be a little bit more empathetic. Be empathetic towards Tomel. He clearly has had a really rough time. Siona thinks that the government is nothing but good because they follow God's plan, they follow God's rules. Now she's doing her research. She's finding out that maybe the High Magistrate is hiding something and keeping something a secret that she found out about. And she's just in denial because of how she was brought up. Now she needs to decide what the right thing to do for herself is. Should she stay quiet and keep this a secret and let the world go on as is? Or should she stand up for what she believes in? Should she do the right thing by exposing this secret and trying to find a way to protect society? We don't know. We don't know. Well, I know. I'm just trying to do a good job of sharing things without spoiling it because I think everyone needs to read this book. It's so good. I'm having the best time. I don't have very much to go. I just have this much left. I have about 140 pages before I'm done with this book. I love that this is a standalone fantasy. I was a little bit nervous because you kind of have to be really good at setting up the world building, the plot, the characters, all in like 400 pages, and I was worried that Emma L. Wang would not be able to do that, but she is serving. She is giving so much to think and ponder on within this book, and I'm having the best time reading this in book club on Fable and talking to my friends in the app about each chapter that happens. It's been an emotional ride and I cannot wait to finish this. I am going to a Galentine's happy hour with two of my good friends. They're also in book club, so we'll probably talk about this. None of us have finished the book yet, so I'll see how far we all are. I'm hoping to finish this book tomorrow so we can wrap up this video. Those are my thoughts so far. Got a little bit way to go, and I can't wait. Can't wait to finish. Happy Valentine's Day! Mark made me roses. These are the best type of flowers because they never die. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Lego flowers are the best flowers. I am at the home stretch. I'm here to give you a reading update. I am on page 345, chapter 20. Things are popping off. Last time where I left you off, I was talking about how Siona is kind of selfish and immature, and she cares about herself and the power and knowledge that she can gain from being a high mage. But also, that's just how she was grown up to be, and that's just what she's learned. But now that she has unraveled and figured out this giant secret that not only affects herself, it affects her community, it affects Tomel and the city of Tehran. She is trying to protect the people that she loves, and she wants to find a solution to help better Tehran. And so what she does is she takes the secret that she has uncovered and she takes it to the higher up head honcho political people, and it doesn't go down very well. And that's kind of how I just ended things. I'm still really liking this so far. I am shocked by how fast the reading and pacing is of the story for it being a standalone. This is a story about power and hunger and knowledge and the lengths that you're going to take to gain that for yourself. And it's also a story of morality and what's right and wrong. What's right for you might not be right for the rest of your community. So Siona is taking a step back and thinking big picture, and I'm glad that she came to her senses with that. I have no idea how the story is going to end. Not a clue. Since this is a dark academia story, I am a little worried that it's not going to end on a happy note. I am worried that, yes, what Siona does, I think she will find a solution, but at what cost? I'm worried that Siona's gonna die, or maybe Tomel is gonna die. And I only say that because this book is very realistic for being a fantasy. There's a lot of parallels between what's happening in this book with what's happening in the real world, and the real world doesn't always have a happy ending, especially when politics are involved, when humans' lives are involved. I am worried that this book might not have the perfect happy ending. And for me, a perfect happy ending of the story would be for Siona and Tomel to be together, because I think that they do like each other. And that's also one thing that I really like about this story. It's not a romance. There's a hint of romantic elements in this book, and it's only mentioned a few times. For the past 2 years or so, I feel like I've only been reading romantasy, and I've been disappointed with a lot of the romantasies that I've read. And this year I made it a goal to read books with substance, read books that I was suggested not from Book Talk, not just reading super popular hyped up books, but also to read books that are just worthy of being read. And I'm not even done yet, and this is worthy for sure. ML Wang is such a good writer, and I cannot wait to read Sword of Kaigen. Maybe I'll suggest it as a Fable Book Club book for March or April. We'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping everyone else in book club is enjoying this as much as I am. I am going to finish up this book, and I'll give you my final thoughts. Things are pretty crazy right now, and I'm very nervous for Siona, and I'm very nervous for Tomel, and we're just gonna have to figure out how this is gonna go down. I have 2 chapters left. I'm not okay. What has happened so far, I did not expect. Without giving spoilers away or saying too much, Siona, I mentioned yesterday, Siona learned a secret that the government has been trying to hide for years, and she shares this truth. She shares this with people. I'm just gonna say that, people. And it kind of backfires, and I did not expect that at all. It goes back to morality and if what Siona did was right or wrong, because the truth can harm just as much as it can heal. So learning the truth can be both good or bad, depending on what the truth is. And so maybe it's a good thing that she did let the secret out and share the truth, because now people can make decisions for themselves with what they know. Regardless of the outcome, I think it's a good thing that she exposed the truth, even though I'm not okay with what has been happening next. I have 2 chapters left. I'm on the last chapter. Everything that has happened so far makes sense. I just don't know why I didn't expect it. I'm just sad. I'm sad. Okay, last chapter. This book is so good. I'm gonna need a minute. The last sentence of this book says, "To hope an eye shut down." Don't be intimidated by this book. I was, and I'm so glad that I read this. It's so good. If you read this book, you know the ending to the story. I think it is one of the most beautiful and realistic endings a story can have, based on everything that's happened in this book, based on history repeating itself. I think that a lot of times we want a fairy tale ending. We want a happily ever after, and majority of the time that is not the case. The ending was wonderful as it could have been. Who says reading isn't political? You're wrong. This book is absolutely fantastic, and I can definitely say this is also a book that talks about female rage, unhinged behavior, women get shit done. That's all I have to say. No notes. I feel like I've just been reading a lot of emotional stories lately. I need to go touch some snow. I need to eat some chocolate. I need to give somebody a hug. I need to watch Love is Blind. I just need some joy right now. Perfect. No notes. No notes. Goodbye.